Hello and welcome to another episode of Whether or Not. I am your host, Filippo Formica, joined by our forecaster, Luke Snyder. And Luke, it was a very wet, cool, dreary start to the week. Is there any improvement on the way for the weekend?
We're going to be seeing some improvement for people in the Northeast over the weekend, but there's going to be some lake effect rain that's still continuing to kind of linger around for much of us here. And we do see another low pressure system eventually move in, so there's not really going to be much of a break of rain for many over the next few days.
And you'll hear more about that in Luke's forecast. But first, here is Nature in the News.
Researchers have studied for years the environmental impacts of eating beef, pork, and chicken, especially when it comes to carbon emissions. But it depends on where you eat it. For the first time, researchers calculated the planet-warming pollution emitted from raising the beef, pork, and chicken Americans eat for nearly every town and city in the contiguous United States. Coined as the carbon hoofprints, the study considers local origins of meat, the ease of production, and transportation for each city. Eating a burger in Milwaukee, where most meat comes from dairy cows, is much different than in Oklahoma City, where beef tends to come from feedlots. The largest carbon hoofprints were found in major cities like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York. But when readjusted for emissions per capita, researchers found little connection between how much a town eats and its climate impact. On average, 73% of every city's hoofprint comes down to beef, not only due to its popularity, but also by producing many more pollutants than hot dog or chicken production. The distance that cattle feed is transported, as well as how far cows travel to be slaughtered, also matters, especially since this can span thousands of miles. Luckily, you don't have to go vegan to reduce your hoofprint. Simply swapping beef for chicken or pork can greatly lower your personal emissions and save you a little extra money against the rising beef prices.
A routine flight from Denver to Los Angeles took an unexpected turn last Thursday, October 16th, when it was diverted to Salt Lake City, not due to mechanical failure or another aircraft, but because of a collision with a weather balloon. United Airlines Flight 1093, a Boeing 737 MAX carrying 134 passengers and crew, struck an object mid-air at approximately 36,000 feet. United Airlines confirmed that the plane's multi-layered windshield was cracked during the incident. Fortunately, no injuries were reported, and the aircraft is currently undergoing repairs before being returned to service. Windborne Systems, a California-based company specializing in high-altitude data collection, acknowledged that the balloon may have been one of theirs. While investigations are ongoing, the incident highlights the growing complexity of managing shared airspace as more non-traditional aircraft and devices take to the skies. As aviation technology evolves, so too must our systems keep the skies safe for everyone on board and everything above.
A rare intensity tornado swept through the northern suburbs of Paris on Monday, leaving at least 9 injured and 1 dead. Being France's first deadly tornado in 17 years, the twister's winds ripped up roofs, shattered windows, and cut power to over 1,700 households. But what led to this rather anomalous storm occurring? A weather map showcases the low-pressure system situated over Britain, creating all the necessary ingredients for this tornado to form. This tornadic outbreak was a part of a series of regional storms, with another potentially significant tornado being documented north of Amsterdam. Monday's weather setup was what's referred to as an HSLC, or High Shear Low Cape. Cape describes how much fuel is available for thunderstorms, whereas shear details the changing direction of winds as you increase in height. With cool temperatures present, not much cape was available, but an abundance of shear helped spin up these destructive storms. Based on photos and videos, this tornado appears to be within the 110 to 130 miles per hour range, most likely classifying it as an EF2 on the 0 through 5 enhanced Fujita scale.
Each year, the United States faces multiple disasters that cost more than $1 billion. Until recently, the National Center for Environmental Information published an annual report that tracked these costly events. Federal budget cuts and what NOAA described as evolving priorities, statutory mandates, and staffing changes led to the belief that this database had been discontinued. A nonprofit, Climate Central, has now rescued the dataset and will keep it publicly accessible. Climate Central already creates these city-level graphics many viewers see on local news, translating climate science into clear local impacts. Adding the $1 billion disasters database strengthens that work by preserving a long-term, transparent record of economic loss from extreme events. The move ensures journalists, researchers, and the public can follow trends, hold institutions accountable, and plan more effectively for future risks. Keeping this data available helps put climate impacts into perspective and support better decision-making for decades to come.
We had a bit of a wet week here in Pennsylvania throughout the past few days, and we're going to be seeing some of that trend continue into the weekend as well. Looking at Fridays to start off, we had this cold front from that stagnant low pressure finally slide its way off the eastern coast, but we're still going to be seeing some remnants of that lake effect rain. As we see up here along the northern portion of the New England and Pennsylvania region, some of those winds are still going to be coming in pretty predominantly from the north thanks to that low pressure system. Again, we see those counterclockwise winds bringing that cooler air from the north and pushing it right over those warm lake waters. Really going to be that perfect fuel for some of those lingering lake effect showers. Definitely going to be seeing some increases in precipitation, especially for some of those more northern and closer to location, close to the lakes areas as well. We see it even migrating as potentially as further west into the northern Michigan area as well. So it's not going to be just us here in the Northeast experiencing that lake effect rain. We see it continuing to stay a little bit longer into the weekend on Saturday as well, but high pressure slowly begins to start building its way into the area as well. So we are going to be seeing some calmer and more pleasant conditions starting to persist as we start switching from that low pressure into that higher pressure. But despite that high pressure, we're not going to be seeing completely clear conditions. We still are expecting some cloud coverage, especially along the western and northern portion of the state. The only clear areas in Pennsylvania are really going to be south of that I-80 corridor and east of the Appalachian Mountains. And many areas along the New England region as well, New York, Vermont, and Maine, are still going to be seeing those pretty cloudy conditions despite this really strong and prominent ridge making its way through the area. And we start seeing our next chance of rain beginning to form over the southern Midwest and eventually creeping its way in throughout the next work week as well. But looking at this weekend ahead, we're going to be seeing relatively seasonable conditions for many of the days, looking around mid-50s as for average for this time of year, so only a few degrees below that for your Friday high, looking at around 54 degrees with, again, those partly cloudy skies kind of staying around after we have that low pressure make its way out of the area. But in the evening time, temperatures do dip a few degrees below average, looking at that flirting with freezing range at a low of 35, so some pretty chilly conditions and some clear skies ahead yet again. So into Saturday, we see clouds slowly begin to increase. High of around 54 again for the Saturday high, but cloud coverage again, like I said, continuing to increase, but that slowly begins to clear up ever so slightly into the evening with a low of 34. So some cloudy and cold conditions. But Sunday is looking like a great day. We have the Thon 5K happening here at Penn State. High of around 57 with some clearing. So for all those participating with the Thon families and students, whether you're walking or running, definitely going to be seeing some really pleasant conditions for that on the Sunday. But up next, we have a feature from Jonathan Domow on satellites.
Meteorologists in today's day and age have an access to a plethora of data and resources for the purpose of predicting the weather as well as researching it. One of these resources is the ability to collect images like the one behind me. But do you know how we get these images? Before I tell you, let's see if you can guess it with some of the hints I'm about to give you. It's orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth's surface. Its purpose is to monitor weather down below and has the capability of taking high-resolution images like the one behind me. Did you get it? If you said weather satellite, you'd be correct.
More specifically, I described a geostationary operational environmental satellite referred to as GOES. Operated by NOAA and NASA, the National Weather Service uses the GOES satellites for its forecasting operations and weather monitoring. The geostationary in the name comes from the type of orbit the satellites are in. The speed of the satellites matches the speed at which the Earth rotates, so it stays in the same spot relative to the ground at all times. There are currently 4 GOES satellites in orbit right now. GOES 19 operates the GOES East sector, which covers the eastern United States, and GOES 18, which operates the GOES West sector in the western U.S. GOES 16 and 17 serve as in-orbit backups in the event 18 or 19 is unavailable. GOES 18 was launched in 2022 and GOES 19 was launched in 2024. The average operational lifespan of these satellites is 10 to 15 years, but can last even longer depending on how much fuel it has left afterwards to keep its geostationary orbit intact. Each satellite is equipped to provide high-resolution imagery in real time, which can help track severe storms and can measure things like the amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere. There's technology on board to view clouds even at night via its infrared abilities. They also work to monitor space weather, most notably solar activity, which is crucial for predicting solar flares and other cosmic events that have an effect here on Earth. The technological abilities present now are a far cry from the ones available to GOES 1, launched all the way back in 1975. Its primary capability was the visible infrared spin scan radiometer, which provided basic weather pictures and displayed cloud cover along with storm development. In the present era, physical GOES satellites themselves weigh over 6,000 pounds, and their total length when in orbit reaches 88 feet long. The image quality the latest GOES satellites can achieve is up to 500 meters per pixel. To put that into perspective, if you took a selfie with your phone's camera, it can capture the individual hairs that make up your eyebrows, each pixel being a fraction of a millimeter wide. The GOES satellite, on the other hand, snaps a picture from 22,000 miles away, with a pixel being 500 meters wide. If your phone could see what GOES sees, a single pixel in your selfie would be the size of Beaver Stadium.
100 years ago, the even thought of obtaining images like this would have seemed unimaginable. But today, thanks to NOAA's GOES satellite network, these images are not only possible, but available to every meteorologist across the country. For Weather or Not, I'm Jonathan Domow.
Some cloudy and cool conditions made their way into the State College area this weekend, but we're going to see that slowly transition into rain as we have low pressure entering the northeast in the week ahead. But first, looking at our weekend recap, temperatures relatively stagnant in the upper 50s for our highs and sitting in that flirting with freezing range for our lows overnight. This is relatively seasonable for this time of year here in State College, maybe a few degrees below average, especially we saw that most prominently in our overnight low temperatures as well. Clouds at their highest percentage on Saturday with those cloudiest days expected, but we saw that coverage slowly decrease into Sunday as well. So those clear skies overnight really allowed for a lot of that radiative cooling, which allowed all that heat that was trapped at the surface throughout the day to slowly rise and eventually leave the area overnight. Hence, we're going to be seeing those coolest conditions on Sunday, with really the closest chance to freezing ahead as well. But as we continue into the extended forecast, we start seeing our real chances for rain slowly begin to pick up as well. Temperatures relatively stagnant again in the mid to lower 50s for the week ahead for our highs. And again, for the lows, sitting pretty comfortably in those mid to upper 30s for much of the week ahead. Monday's going to be our last chance at a dry day. But as we move throughout Tuesday and the rest of the work week, low pressure really begins to situate itself over Pennsylvania. We see it remaining relatively stagnant, first entering over the Great Lakes and then just continuing to slide its way across much of Pennsylvania and throughout the rest of the Northeast and New England area as well. So chances of showers expected Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so not much of a washout, but some light drizzles here and there, and a few breaks of that precipitation throughout the day as well. So making sure you have that umbrella and rain jacket handy for any time that these showers may begin to pop up throughout the work week ahead. But up next, we have our Weather Whiz Quiz answer.
And our Weather Whiz quiz for this week was about lake effect snowfall in Erie and what percentage of their annual snowfall total comes from lake effect. And if you answered C, about 20 to 40%, you'd be correct. And Luke, we're seeing lake effect, but not in the form of snow, but rather as the form of rain.
Yeah, absolutely. So we still see that lake effect precipitation occurring regardless of the temperature. It really matters when we see those cool winds overblowing those warm bodies of water, typically the Great Lakes region. So when temperatures start dipping, around, freezing or even below freezing in the more of the winter months, that's when we start seeing it really transition into lake effect snow, which is personally my favorite type of weather to forecast. So I'm super excited to start seeing that happening soon.
And we'll start seeing that here in the next couple months in northwest Pennsylvania. Usually around November, December is when lake effect season really starts to kick off there. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Weather or Not. Come back next week for another edition.